Welcome to StartupHakk. I'm Spencer Thomason, and here at StartupHakk, we love to train software developers and build custom software solutions. So I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership experience and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transforming technology, teams, and products. So Intel has recently announced a massive layoff affecting 15% of its workforce, and I think it could even go deeper than that, which translates to over 12,000 jobs. So the significant reduction is part of Intel's plan to cut $10 billion in costs amidst a revenue slump. The company cites advancements in AI and its impact on their traditional chip business as a major factor, but I think it goes a lot deeper, and that's what I'm going to dig into today. So I've had the weekend to kind of take and consume this big layoff from Intel, and I want to dive into where I think a lot of their mistakes have been and where I think they've really misstepped. And I think really this is actually a gross negligence, honestly, with a lot of opportunity. But let's dive in a bit and talk about it today. All right, we're going to dive into a whole bunch of different sources today. And these sources really are I'm going to bounce through a bunch of different things, but really it's all centering around these mistakes that Intel has made over the last, 5 years that really is now coming to a head now. And it's kind of funny because, I did a live on this when Intel announced it late last week, announced the big layoffs. But then as I've dove more and more and more into this, there's just mistake after mistake after mistake. And this is just a classic modern example of somebody who should have been on the cutting edge, who should have been in front of everybody, but frankly is just losing. And they're just getting their butts handed to them on every single front. And so I want to kind of dive into a handful of these different articles and things that that just really kind of highlight how bad Intel's been doing at so much of this over the last few months. So let me switch over to my other camera here then. So want to kind of show you, this. So Intel maker is eyed for you. So this is an older article, and I pulled this up on purpose though. Eyed for billions in U.S. grants set to fire 15,000. So the thing about this that's so crazy, looks like I'm getting blocked by some paywall. But I was reading this article, and the thing about this is that Intel emerged as the big winner of President Biden's Chip for America program, with the administration announcing $8.5 billion in grants and $11 billion in loans for this company. That guess who's paying the interest on the loans? Yep, you got it. We are. And for this loans to help bring chip manufacturing back to the United States. So this chip manufacturing is supposed to be coming back to the United States, and that's all good and great. Like, look, you're not going to find a bigger patriot and somebody more conservative and interested in U.S. base than I am. But I want to point this out because I think this is really important. We're going to come back to this statistic over and over again today. The leading semiconductor companies worldwide as of June 5th, right? So a few months, but I don't think this changes that quickly. Look how far down the list Intel is. It's actually down into this little gray section. I got to expand it to get down to here. Look at that. They're so small compared to NVIDIA, TSMC, Broadcom, AMD. They're just getting their butts handed to them, and there's no excuse. When the U.S. government is giving you almost $20 billion to go and to start to build this, there's no reason for this. Now, even after Friday, when I was talking about this, I got this ad, and it was from Dell. And we can talk about Dell and kind of losing market share and everything a different day. I won't pick on Dell today, but talk about another company that has really kind of lost a lot of their place. But notice something really smart, something really huge here. Snapdragon, right? That's Qualcomm. Snapdragon, right? These are all, as you click into each one of these, each of these Copilot Plus PCs are driven by Snapdragon. Used to be Dell was Intel, Windows, and now we're seeing Snapdragon. That means that Qualcomm are producing the chips for these because today for and one, because these are going to be made more efficiently for AI, and so these are going to be designed to be able to process AI really efficiently, which is obviously the Copilot Plus and really Dell and Microsoft is betting a lot on this, right? But the thing about it is that anymore chips are so fast. We walk around with these things in our pockets, right? And chips are so fast that we don't care as much about how fast things are anymore. I mean, sure, we want them to be fast because we want them to be optimized. And this has definitely been proved by Apple, right? Where we want things to be quick and efficient. But at the same time, Intel's totally missed this boat. Their Core i9 processor is fantastic. It's amazing. It's really fast. But that really is like for 1% of the market that needs that level of speed. Everybody else cares much more about how long their battery life lasts. And then new features like these, but you can see now designed with lightning fast Snapdragon X series processors for game-changing performance. And here you go, groundbreaking battery life and powerful NPU. I mean, how long has Intel had the opportunity, and how long has their integrated graphics card chipset sucked? Now, I mean, they should have seen this trend a long time ago. It started with crypto, has definitely continued into the AI, but it's not just that. So Intel's AI PCs are killing profits. So this is Yahoo Finance. This was front page Yahoo Finance, right? And so, this was, Sundays, right? From Motley Fool with Yahoo Finance. So reported a net loss of $1.6 billion on the second quarter, a swing of more than $3 billion year over year in the wrong direction. The company's adjusted gross margin was 38% down from the same quarter last year. Yeesh. Like, that's not a little miss. I mean, that's a big miss and a mile away from long-term targets of 60%. There's a lot of moving parts contributing to this. But I'm going to go into, I think we dive into some of this because I actually kind of want to tear this down a little bit. Intel launched the Meteor Lake chipsets late last year. These were the first PC central processing units from Intel that featured dedicated AI processors, although the AI horsepower included as well is well below the newer chips from AMD and Qualcomm. So, first of all, that whole division just needs to be fired. They just need to absolutely clean house in whatever division was doing this because they should have been so far in the front. Intel should have been writing its R&D abilities from 20 years, and they instead have just totally missed the boat on this one. I mean, I feel like miss the boat sounds like it's being really nice, right? Intel has shipped more than 15 million of its Meteor Lake chipsets so far, but at a significant cost. Intel chose to accelerate the ramp of the Meteor Lake to meet demand and move wafer production from Oregon to Ireland, where wafer costs are currently higher. The Ireland fab will eventually be more efficient as production scales, but it's still early. So they're trying to invest this $20 billion they got into a more efficient place, I guess, but I'm still not totally finding this. Now they continue, and they're trying to look forward to the next one, and I get that they still need to continue to do that. But should you invest in Intel? Their chips are so expensive, way expensive. And honestly, they're just they aren't that much greater, and especially because their battery life just is not as good as some of these competitions. So that's one of the things. Now I wanted to hit this other part that I think is actually taking a bigger impact that nobody really wants to, is I was kind of shocked at how little people are talking about this in the mainstream. This actually was coming a little bit while ago, but Intel knows and has admitted that they're selling a defective 13 and 14th gen chip. So this guy works at Alderon Games. We're going to multiplayer dinosaur survivor game, Path of Titans, and he's been encountering significant problems with Intel CPU stability. So now it comes out that Intel actually just admits, hey, look, yeah, we know these are unstable and they're permanently damaged. So they teach you how, so they're like, hey, here's what you need to do. You need to run these tests, and if you have one of these, we'll swap out your CPU. Now, I'm fairly technical. I've got 3 servers, I think, sitting under the desk here, half torn apart. Man, I wouldn't want to tear apart a CPU. I'd buy a whole new computer. That's a pain in the butt. And so and they're tracing it back to oxidation manufacturing issues. Man, this is the kind of mistake Intel cannot be making at this point. I mean, this is a 13th, 14th gen core processor. These guys should be pros at this stuff by now. And, so citing unnamed sources, Tom's Hardware reports that any degradation of the processor is irreversible, and Intel spokesman did not deny that when asked. Intel is confident the patch will keep it from happening in the first place. As another preventative measure, you should update your motherboard ASAP, right? But all of this is a total miss and yet another explanation of how bad Intel is doing on this stuff right now. Now, they did actually end up recalling the chips. I think this article was a couple weeks old here now. Yeah, so July, right? So they did end up recalling these chips. They haven't done a full recall, but they're this is becoming, and this is going to be a bigger issue. You're going to see more and more about this, and this will be huge because servers will have to be rolled back that have these. And this is just way too costly of a mistake. Now, and I accidentally just clicked on an ad on the pollster. All right, so all of that, and again, I'm just going to keep highlighting this again because this is Intel now. I have to kind of point that out, right? Intel, if I scroll too far, I'm going to actually push Intel off the page. They're losing so badly right now, and they should be winning. There is so many billions and billions in billions of dollars going into NVIDIA and AMD right now, and not to even mention on the Broadcom. But and I get that TSMC is a slightly different market, but Intel's still playing in all of those markets, and maybe they shouldn't have. And maybe they should have just been, focusing on, maybe they should have just been focusing this whole time on trying to just really win at AI. I'm not really sure but something's very clear is that they obviously missed, right? They've obviously missed on this. Now, I'm still not even done with the stuff that I've got to go through this morning because there was so much to it this morning, or just over the weekend, as I started to read on miss after miss after miss of Intel here. Let me pull up. I'm going to pull up Morning Brew actually, and if you're not a Morning Brew follower, I don't know, I like to bring it to you here, so I'll always try to bring it to you as much as I can. I'm actually going to go bit by bit through this because Morning Brew, as always, gives us a pretty good little synopsis of this here. All right, let's zoom in here a little bit. So, span of the past few decades, Intel has gone from a global leader in semiconductor to a company frantically conserving cash. That is a terrible sign. If your company, especially the size and funding and the fundability, that's the other thing about it. Intel not only has been handed $20 billion from the government, but their ability to get funds are literally unmatched. Last week's earning report revealed the shocking extent of its challenges. Chipmaker said it would cut 15% of the workforce and suspend the dividend that it's paid out since 1992. The last time they didn't pay out a dividend was 1992. That's crazy. That's a whole different generation. That's before I started developing, and I'm an old guy at this point. As part of a plan to save $10 billion in cash costs next year, shares tanked 26% Friday. And as of this morning, let's go take a look at what the market's doing with them this morning. I hope it's beating the crap out of them, to be honest. I just lost my mouse here. Okay, let's go take a look at the market here. Intel stock. If I can type. Oh, they're already down 7% today too. And they've rebounded a little bit, but over the last, let's look at the last month. They're down 37% from a month ago, and it wasn't like they were doing all that hot 6 months before that. So for the last 6 months, they're down over 53%. This is just going to be a bloodbath for Intel. But I'm going to talk about why that affects all of us, unfortunately. Now, I think. There's going to be ramifications to this, without a doubt. But let's dive back into the Morning Brew, and I won't go too far on that yet. Too many screens. All right, here we go. Last week's earnings, in a memo to employees, CEO Pat Gansler didn't bother to use a compliment sandwich. And I love that. Didn't bother using a compliment sandwich. Yeah, there's no compliments coming here. He said starkly, our costs are too high, our margins are too low. That's definitely an overstatement. And that the belt tightening moves represent some of the most consequential changes in our company's history. So what went wrong? In the 19s and early 2000s, Intel's lapped the competition with like Katie Ledecky in the pool, right? The Wintel partnership, right? And that's what I was just highlighting before. Wintel's gone. Like, it's gone. I mean, Microsoft has about faced, and I mean, there's just gone. Because Intel was so focused on making chips for computers that missed out on the shift to smartphones. Hands down. Totally, Qualcomm stole that market. Just ran away with it from them. As well as others. I mean, they even had, how long did, even Apple was like, yeah, screw you guys, your chips suck, we're going to go build our own. It also outclassed in transistor production by Taiwan Semiconductor, as we saw from that graph, right? So it missed on both of these because it was just so focused on making chips for computers. Surprise, like little side note, most of the world's using these, not using computers much anymore, right? The amount of desktops being sold out there have been down for about 100 years. So perhaps the most consequential mistake was getting caught flat-footed for the AI gold rush, when they should have been long in front of it. Intel's been producing machine learning chips for, I don't know, at least a decade. They should have been killing it in that market. But no, they've totally missed. But they're writing checks to NVIDIA and not to Intel. NVIDIA sells 20 billion worth of AI chips each quarter. Intel will sell 500 million over the entire year. Intel stumbles are also a geopolitical embarrassment for the White House, which has held up its America champion and made it the biggest beneficiary of the CHIPS Act, meant to spur production in the U.S. Intel will receive up to 85 billion. That's the grants we were talking about, and then 11 billion in loans, right? I mean, that's to help it build factories across country. But these projects will take time to ramp up, underscoring how Intel's turnaround is years away if it arrives at all. And I think that last part is the biggest take to it. So I thought that was a really good synopsis. But I mean, in the end, I think saying they got caught flat-footed is like being nice. And obviously the market agrees. Now, the other side of this that I want to dig into a little bit, because I definitely want to follow tech. Obviously, we're talking about developers. We're talking about the effects on developers' jobs. But the big thing, too, is that I want to really talk about is like the effect on the market. And I think one of the things that I really like to differentiate here, and not that I'm going to turn this totally into a finance channel, but if you don't understand finances, you're not going to understand where the market's going. And if you don't understand finances a little bit, you're not following some of the major winds of change that are coming for entrepreneurs. So this is a really big deal. And Intel CEO dream job takes a nightmarish turn, right? This is also, man, darn these paywalls. So it was a dream job for him more than 3 years ago. He lost it. So the biggest thing about this is that Intel is, there's a lot of chatter about Intel getting delisted from the Dow. It's on the Dow. It's part of the SP 500, right? Like, it's on some of these major indexes, and it's going to get delisted from them because, I mean, you lose 53% of your earnings. And so it's not a wonder that, so like one of the more popular, S&P 500 stocks is, Vanguard's VU. And again, not that I want to totally turn this into a finance channel, but in the last 5 days, the VU's been getting hit, and I think a lot of this is because of the weight that's on Intel. Now, the other part of this too is that a lot of people are looking at Intel, and there's a lot of fear right now out there that Intel is an early sign of a pending recession. Now, the jobs report came in last week. It was terrible. There's a lot of people saying the R word, saying we're in a recession. And I think in some ways, especially in the tech industry, we've been in a recession for the last couple of years. And I think, that's something we've talked about over and over on this channel here, is about how I think we've been hit so hard in tech specifically because of this. Now, there could be a good side to this. I know. It's really hard to kind of look and, I'm that guy sitting around, what's that little meme, the guy with the fire saying, it's fine, everything's fine. I mean, recessions are tough. But I've been predicting for a while that the feds were going to keep interest rates up until they saw jobs get hit. Like, they could get inflation under control, they could look at all those metrics, but it was really jobs. Inflation was going to stay high until jobs came down. And that was ultimately what they've seen. Now, I think an early indicator of that was some of the higher end paying of jobs, which is tech. And tech pays a lot. Healthcare has been propped up so much over the years and is just so expensive that we haven't seen the healthcare industry get hit as hard, which is one of the other high paying industries. But tech is one of the really high paying industries. And so we're seeing it propped up it hasn't been propped up over the last 18 months because as interest rates have come up, companies, money's been expensive. And so with money expensive and the interest rates high, it was going to be until we saw these jobs come down. Now, since last week's job report, there's been a lot of calls to the Fed to slash rates quicker. The Feds have kind of been hinting that they're going to slash rates this fall. I think we're going to start to see it sooner. I think there's a chance we could see it sooner, and when we do, I think tech will be one of the first ones to pick back up. I think housing might be one of the other ones to pick back up when we see see interest rates go down. Now, it could be a bumpy ride between now and whenever that happens, right? I think you're going to see a lot of people really jittery with so much uncertainty. And when you look like a giant like Intel, I think that Intel has made a ton of other mistakes. I personally don't think this has anything to do with the recession or with the economy or even with high interest rates because frankly, they got an $11 billion interest-free loan, right? Like I think Intel's still getting that free money and they're still losing. We saw the market that we see right now has won because we saw free money be pumped into in so many different ways, and I've gone into that many times before, be pumped into these companies over the last, during the 2 years in COVID, and then it became this, you can two analogies work, either Survivor, where we got to vote people off the island, right? Like that's kind of layoff thing, or Hunger Games. You can kind of pick which one of your two analogies you want to go with. Survivor is probably a little less morbid, but I think we've been seeing that, and then we've been seeing people get voted off the island every month, every quarter. People get voted off the island over the last couple of months. Now, I'm hoping, and my prediction is, that as we see the market hit, we're going to see some bumps over the coming months, and this fall to end of Q3, beginning Q4, it's kind of my prediction here, we're going to see the tech market start to tick back up when Feds slash interest rates. I think there's a lot of projects that have been on the shelf that are itching to get out. I know I've seen it because I've heard about it and been talking to a lot of people in our consulting side of our business. And because here at StartupHakk, we love training software developers, and then we use those software developers once they're trained to build custom software solutions for technology companies or for any companies. We love to build technology, and we're really good at it. And so these are my predictions. I've been talking mostly about Intel. I think a lot of people are predicting that Intel is like an early predictor. I think they've just made blunder after blunder after blunder for the last 10 years. I think it's just been a series of mistakes and missteps and missed opportunities. There is no excuse for what Intel's had, and I think heads should roll. And I think we're going to have to see a major restructuring, and I think that's going to hit the tech market in a handful of ways. Now, I've gone for a long time. This is one of the longer lives that I've done, but I had a lot of material that I wanted to go over this morning. Hopefully, all have enjoyed this. As usual, make sure that you leave comments. I love having great discussions. I answer them all personally. I try to answer them all right away. Lots of stuff that I brought today is stuff that came from comments. I have another video that I want to be making about the effects of the R&D tax credit and how we see that on the tech market. But that's all that I've got time for today. Let's make sure that you like and subscribe and share with your friends. I'm going to keep making great content, and we will catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.